Call this meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is there any changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda.
Okay.
Second?
Second, first and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Open forum. If there's anybody that'd like to just speak at the open forum, feel free to come up. We will be having a hearing in a little bit too. If not, there's a consent agenda, approval of the minutes, approval of the bills and purchase orders, approval of the investments, office assistant 3, step increase, police reserve resignation, fire department hires. There was a donation resolution number 2021-24 donation from Waste Management, and a gambling resolution number 2021-25 Central Care Melrose. Can I get a motion to approve?
Chief, would you want to wait until the new hires and mention that when you're talking about the tanker replacement? Okay.
Okay. So I had a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. It is 6:01. We are having a hearing of a dangerous dog order. Who's going to speak? Scott?
Yeah, we've got this hearing. Minneapolis Police Department, or not Minneapolis, Melrose Police Department has issued Ram Kara Lewis a notice declaring their dog Luna a dangerous dog under the city ordinance and Minnesota statutes. Under the statutes, the Lewises are allowed to ask for a hearing to review the police department's determination that Luna is a dangerous dog. That hearing under our ordinance is done by the city council. The ordinance designates the council as the hearing body. Now during the hearing, I see the Lewises are here, Chief Mouse is here. I'm assuming the council also received the copies of the police report. They'll be allowed a chance to speak, and the council then has an opportunity to ask questions. And then once the hearing is closed, and this is then under the action items, the council will deliberate, based on the information it has received, make a decision if Luna is a dangerous dog as defined by Minnesota statutes. I think before we close the hearing, after everybody's had a chance to speak, I've got a few closing remarks, but mostly I just want to go through the process and the procedure. And like I say, if the folks will present their information, and this is the council's chance to ask questions during this hearing portion. Council, have any questions for me? Otherwise, I will step down and let folks speak.
And then got to make a motion to open the public hearing, or we did open it, right?
You did open the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, Craig, do you want to start first?
So as Scott said, you should have copies of the police reports. We do have 2 of them from 2021 here. One of them May 28th, and the other one is June 17th, related to the 2 incidents that were reported to our department, related to, first of all, the May incident deemed the dog potentially dangerous, which is what starts the process related to where we are today. And then a second incident happened that deems the dog, or can be deeming the dog, dangerous under state statutes, which is mirrored in our Melrose ordinances. Just a quick outline, if you would like, related to the first incident. A lady was in the parking lot by the dentist office, getting out, stretching her legs with her small dog. Dog came across, and there was an incident in the parking lot over there, and you guys have the reports on that. But there was a bite related to the smaller dog. The female dog owner was also bitten on the arm and the upper arm area. Didn't seem that that was anything that needed immediate medical attention, and there's nothing in the report indicating that any vet service was needed for her dog, but there were some scratches or bite marks to the dog. Like I said, we don't have anything that says that any vet help was needed on that one. Second incident, like I said, was June 17th. 4 people were walking with 4 of their dogs in front of the city center here, and then same dog came out, was being aggressive towards the people and the dogs. From that one, it looks as though that people were able to intervene and keep this dog away from any injuries or anything like that. There was teeth showing, some growling, barking, those sorts of things that appeared to be aggressive or appeared to be threatening in nature towards the people that were in that group, from what was said in the reports, and that the dog was returned to a house nearby here and placed inside the house along with 1 other dog during that incident. The officers followed up with the dog owners related to that as well. So there's several criteria that could come out of this if you deem the dog dangerous, and we can go through that if that's the situation. Otherwise, that is also outlined in your packet. I believe, Scott, you sent them the potential outcomes on that separate sheet? Okay. And then there's definitions in there as well as what is potentially dangerous, what is dangerous, and those sorts of things. The dog is current on shots. The dog is licensed as of now, as well as it is microchipped as part of the potentially dangerous dog requirements. So some of the things that, if it is deemed dangerous, have already been met, as well as some additional things could be placed if the dog is deemed dangerous after tonight's meeting. Any questions?
We have questions.
Second incident, was there contact between the 2 animals?
I'd have to read the report a little bit more thoroughly, but from what I gather from the overview of it, it was more growling, baring teeth, and that the adults, there was 4 adults, 2 males, 2 females, and that the adult male stepped in to keep the dogs away from anybody else, and it doesn't appear that there was any bites or any injury from that side.
Anybody have any questions for Chief Mouse? Okay. Would you like to come up, Carol?
Hi, and thanks for listening to us today. Reason for our appeal, every owner says their dog is not dangerous, but she's really not. We did find that, we're not denying that any of these things happen by any means whatsoever. She is a dog. We've never had issues before. She gets along with other dogs. We think that part of the problem was Raheem takes care of Adam and would bring her to work. And the door doesn't always get shut at Merritt's. And she has a little dog that when anybody walks by, the dog barks. And Luna went to protect the other dog and the people in it. We have taken a lot of precautions. We've followed through with a lot of the things that were asked of us. They happen very close together. We have decided that the dog will not be going over to work with Raheem anymore. That makes a big difference. And she's never out, not tied up. We even have a muzzle in case we're in a situation where we might be cautious of that. And we have no problem with the potentially dangerous label and have vowed to be better owners and to make sure that she's protected as well. The issue we have is with deeming her dangerous. Our hands are kind of tied, I guess is a good way to say it. It's just, we would like to be able to have another chance to show that we have things under control. She is not, I mean, people-wise, she really is not. She's 4 years old. We think we have time to work with her. We've talked about getting a trainer, just really reaching out and not just giving up right away. We just would like to have that opening to do that.
Council, anybody have questions?
I guess my biggest concern is, it's always the what ifs. I mean, we can do this, not, leave it the way it is. And who's next?
That's an extreme fair question, and we actually agree with that as well. But that's with any dog in the neighborhood. I mean, that's the kind of the frustrating thing for us is going, we've got dogs in our neighborhood that have come after us, come after our dog, and that's always an issue, always. I mean, there's always a chance that a dog can get away, that they can, I mean, I agree with you on that, and I don't have an answer. I really don't.
Has there ever been an incident, obviously, you said they're both over here at Merritt's, at your home residence?
No, no.
And you're saying you are not going to have the dog over at Merritt's anymore?
No, not at all. She has not been there. As soon as it happened, it was like, well, we just can't take that chance. She's at home. She is completely in the house. When we don't tie her up outside even and leave her out there. That's never been something we do. She's leashed at all times. Yeah, and she doesn't, she stays at home now.
Yeah, like Carrie said, we've lived there, for a long time. She's been there for all of her 4 years. And at our house on First Street, we've never had an incident like what's happened here. And I think it's just her being overprotective. And she's been there coming to work with me every day since her dog was brought home as a small puppy, 8 weeks old or whatever. And kind of sees him, as spurs. So it's the combination of the two of them, I think, that they get into trouble. Because her by herself, she really doesn't.
They become a herd.
Yeah, we have no issues with controlling the herd or following commands or at home.
You're top.
And also the second incident that did happen, like I said, there was no bites. And the only reason and Raheem was taking care of Adam, and the grandchildren had came home and came in, got their stuff and left the door open. And he didn't even know, I mean, when he was told it happened, he's like, I don't even know how it did, the dogs are here. So, but yes, that's why the decision was made that just won't even be an option anymore.
And unfortunately, as far as our decision goes, part of the weight of that decision is if we have a very nice dog that has been aggressive on 2 different occasions with another animal, if there was a situation again, us being fully aware of it, that kind of puts us in a spot,
And
as well as you, as the
Yep,
owners.
and trust me, we're feeling it too. And in all honesty, like I said, we have no problem with admitting that the things happened. We're not denying that. We know that it's a danger, and like I said, but that's any single time you have a dog, period, that
Well, and I
is-
live a half block away. I wasn't even aware you had a dog.
So yes, it happens.
I saw the reports. I didn't even realize you guys had a dog. So.
And if we see it, we've already discussed it. If we see any more even signs of aggression, we don't want that either. We've dealt with it before. It's not okay. I mean, we love our dogs and all dogs, so it's not okay to us to have her injure at all. I mean, I don't think that's okay at all. Everybody should be able to walk their dogs and go about their business without having to worry about being attacked, which in our neighborhood is very difficult, and that's my point, is going, there's always a chance. And I do respect that, very much so. I understand that that's, and I feel that too, but.
Yeah. Okay. All right, anybody have any questions? Okay. Anybody else in the public? Or Scott?
You know, I think if, the next step then would be to, close the hearing.
Yep.
So, but before we did that, I just want to make sure that, if the council has any additional questions, that now is the time to ask. And by the same token, if either the Lewises or Chief Mouse has any additional information or statements they want to make, again, now is the time. Once the hearing's closed, that opportunity to present information is passed. There will, you have the information you've got from the hearing, and that you make your decision then based on, the information that was presented to you here. So I guess this would be the last call. If you guys have questions or anybody has anything else they want to add.
Scott, does it make sense to outline what would be the stipulation if the dog is deemed dangerous? What would be required?
Yeah, I could do that now. I got that also, I guess, before the, this does come up later in the action items, and I've got, a list of what the state statutes requires of the owners once the dog is this, dangerous dog determination, if it's upheld. And it's a fairly lengthy list. I could go through that now or present that before the action item, whichever the council prefers.
Are we just voting if it's dangerous because it's already potentially, right? Like it's currently potentially dangerous and we're voting if it's dangerous or not.
Basically, yes, right, Scott? What's our choices when it comes to voting?
Well, the police department has made the dangerous dog determination that's being appealed. So, your choices are either, based on the information you have, you uphold that, yes, this is a dangerous dog, or you find that no, it is not a dangerous dog. The previous determination of potentially dangerous dog, there's a similar process that, about challenging that, and that's time for doing that has passed. So that would remain in place. It would remain a potentially dangerous dog and subject to the requirements of that determination. And maybe Chief Mouse can speak to what those requirements are. I've got the list for dangerous, but I didn't run off the list of potentially dangerous.
Yeah, potentially dangerous just outlines basically what also is in the dangerous dog as far as the criteria to get to that far. But what is put in place after it's deemed potentially dangerous, there's also an appeals process related to that, all those sorts of things. But the dog needs to be microchipped so it can be identified. Say it was picked up anywhere or everywhere, it can be identified with a tool, and okay, we know where you belong or who you belong to, that kind of thing. And many animals are microchipped just for that get lost kind of situation. But that is part of the requirements. It is also then required to make sure that it has shots, and that's licensed annually, which is required of all pets within the city limits of Melrose anyway. When it's deemed potentially dangerous and we come to hearings like this, we have the dangerous designation in place, that's when the additional steps come into place, so that microchip remains in the animal forever. But that's a requirement. Muzzling, like they're talking about, they're already doing. If it's outside on a leash or a chain, it has to be substantial quality that you can't break it. And then if it would get to the dangerous situation, then enclosures, there's criteria on what an enclosure entails and what it has to be. So it's spelled out in statute what it has to look like and what it has to be, and those sorts of things. So registration fees, insurances, those sorts of things go along with the dangerous designation as well. And that follows the animal, whether it stays here in the city of Melrose, it gets gifted to somebody else, it has to be recorded everywhere that dog goes, as well as if the dog passes for natural causes or is put down for whatever reason, we have to be, or the agency that's in charge of the area has to be notified that the dog is passed as well. So, and that's on the dangerous side.
And that's something I was excuse me, I was trying to explain. We have pretty much done every single thing that's on the dangerous dog list, except for the extra $300,000 in liability insurance, and I think that's self-explanatory. So that's exactly what I was talking about. We have pretty much went through the list and tried to follow all of them. It's just,
And the enclosure.
well, we don't ever, handle her, so. Right.
It's still a requirement.
Yep.
Yeah. But even if they can go further above us if they wanted to appeal
Yep,
it
there is
too.
one more appeals process. So if you do deem the dog dangerous, there is an appeal process to Stearns County Court, District Court, which has to be done within 14 days after the designation is made, if that's what happens tonight. And then it's heard by the district courts as well. And then they go through, and it falls more on the state statute. But like I said, our ordinance mirrors state statutes. It's not like it's new information that'd be bringing up there, but it's just another area to appeal to, as well as if this level is not felt to be appropriate.
That's fine. Okay.
Does this stay a dangerous dog for its,
For the duration of the animal. There is a review, allows 6 months or a year after the designation for it to be reviewed, as far as if there's any concerns or that the training has happened or anything like that, that is in place as well under state statute, that would allow that this designation could be removed. But my understanding is then it just stays at the potentially dangerous, doesn't start over at zero, basically. And they don't have any criteria to define how or what would be the movement, because like they're saying at their household or with other animals seems to be fine, but it seems as though if it's in their area where they feel it's territorial, that it becomes an issue. So I don't know what the criteria would be to say that we can remove the dangerous designation if that's the case, because it seems to work well in one place but not in another place, and I don't know if we then expose Luna to other dogs or something to figure out if this is a good thing or a bad thing after 6 months or a year or whatever the duration is.
She is exposed to a lot of dogs. I mean, we have, can't count how many we have just on our block that we see every day.
Mom and Dad have 2.
Yeah.
Right.
She's exposed to them on everything. So it's kind of, it shocked us that it happened. And, we can do what we can as owners to, make sure it doesn't happen again. So, from our standpoint, we'd like to not have
So you-
to
Put her down,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you feel that she's going after the dogs and not necessarily a person?
Oh, no, she's definitely after the dogs, yes.
Because that's my biggest thing is, I mean, you see these pictures of kids that get mauled
Oh,
by
yeah,
dogs and
no.
stuff, and, I mean, my kids bite that whole area, I mean, they live in that
No,
area,
the-
so it's like,
And if it was after people, we wouldn't even, that wouldn't even be a question.
No, we wouldn't even try to keep her.
No.
The
One-
first incident with the owner who got bit was she tried to, get him.
Grab the dog, yeah.
So, and,
Well, I know it's hard. I mean, I've gone through this process already. And I still, I remember that one that we had here a few years ago where it was there was 2 incidences of bites and nips, and they took the dog out of town and it hurt somebody, and they had to put it down 2 weeks later. It's really hard it puts us in a tough position. Especially with the liability and the risk on the city too. I mean, it's hard for, anything, I don't know what to say is the best, but yeah, okay.
Any other questions or statements? Otherwise, I think the next step would be to close the hearing, and then I will go through what, the statute defines the dog, what's a dangerous dog, and then go through what the ramifications of that decision are when you
So,
get to the
Scott,
action items.
if we leave it on the step it's at right now, but we say, all right, there's one more instance, we skip the dangerous and it goes right to get put down. I mean, there's no, Are we able to put that authority on that or no?
No, I think if there's another incident,
I mean, I'm just saying.
yeah, the
like,
police
that-
would, if there was be another incident, then the police would, make a fresh determination as, has this crossed the line and, either, the Lewises accept the police's determination and act accordingly, or if they're, or they can come back for a hearing like tonight. So there's no shortcut,
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Well, it's 6:25. Can I get a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Chief Mouse, you're up first, the reports.
All right, our June numbers for 2021 in our traffic area, we had 11 citations issued, 41 verbal warnings, 0 written warnings. For the month of June in 2021, 281 calls or requests for service. Last year was 292. And then we ended on ICR 1926, and last year was 1764. So we are still ahead of last year's numbers, and they're actually equaling out pretty well to 2019. So we're seeing some of the pre-pandemic stuff start to come back into play and life come back to normal. 41 agency assists in June. Nothing of real big note, minus what we're working on here tonight already. Everything else is pretty consistent and look pretty normal overall.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions.
Have, just quick, anything with bullfish, and have we been having any issues?
No further issues reported to our department. I think it was maybe early June was the last videos or reports that I had. I'd have to check my email when they came through, but it's quieted
Nobody's
down.
been out now. I think it's getting a little too hard to see anything in the water, so.
Shallow water, murky water kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Okay.
very much so.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, just as long as they don't switch from boats to dynamite, because the water isn't very clear.
All right. Scott?
Be okay with that. Well, it's not at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, say you have my report. The things I noted there were items that had happened at the time I'd made my report. So in addition, we have some the issue that with the dogs, the 2021 nuisance action, and then the nuisance proposed amendments. Are related. Every year Chief Mouse does his inspections, goes through town and, identifies some nuisance conditions on properties. We do have about, I believe, 9 folks that have not complied. I am not here tonight asking you guys to make a decision on those and holding a hearing on those, because before doing that, I'm suggesting that you amend the ordinance. And again, that's further along under new business, and we will can go into more detail at that time. But I'm thinking that our ordinance is beginning to show its age, and I think the community would be better served if we did some updates before bringing another round of nuisance actions. So that's what I've got so far. And unless you have any other questions.
Is there any questions?
Nope.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Nick, welcome back.
All right, good evening, Mayor and City Council. RDB project update. Plans are nearing 90-95% completion. We have determined the location of the crossing across Casal 13 to be the south side of the intersection of the park entrance. After some discussion, that's what project team came up with. Staff has begun discussions on with property owners on the temporary easements. Preliminary bridge plans were resubmitted to MnDOT this week, so that's good news. Clomar application was submitted on June 21st. So things are moving on nicely, and we're on track to hopefully bid the project out in October, November, obviously pending funding availability. 2021 street improvement project. We had a pre-con meeting on June 23rd. Contractor provided a schedule for us. They are anticipated to start next week. Currently, CenterPoint is relocating some shallow gas mains. That's happening right as we speak. They should be done early next week on that, and then we can get Mark Lee in here to get that project done. Our inspector and Gary have met, marked out locations for removals and everything, so we're ready to go as soon as CenterPoint is out of our way. Completion date expected to probably be mid to late August on that one, so 3 to 4 weeks of construction. Should go pretty quickly. 2021 chip seal project. I did talk to Pearson Brothers. The plan is still to start that on early August. I'm going to touch base with them next week to get a more refined start date on that. But the plan right now is early August to get rolling with that. And then the 2020 street improvements, Gary and WSP have met, went over the final punch list items. They've agreed to what needs to be done. Once the contractor's out for the 2021 project, they'll mobilize to get that remaining punch list work done. There's not a lot left, just a few small sidewalk replacements and things like that, but that should be done very quickly. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
As far as the whole bridge project goes, I don't know that we've seen, you know, we're pretty far along with the engineering now. Is there any way we could get some maybe updated numbers as far as like a projected cost estimates possibly? Because I don't think we've seen anything in a long time on that, so.
Yeah, they typically will do 60% net then 90%, so we should be getting those costs really pretty quick here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have it very soon. As soon as we have it, we'll get that over to Colleen. She can disseminate that to the
Because I know the Clomar was added to it, and I don't know how much that costs, but I thought a lot of the legwork was done on that already, but.
Sure. Yeah, we can get that info to you as soon as we have it.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
No problem.
Thanks. Clean.
So as Nick said, we are getting really close on the RDB project. A couple more things related to that. The legislature did not pass any bonding bills. However, they did beef up their local transportation funds. So between that and some of the other funding that they did at the state level, if we rank high enough in MnDOT's list, then, you know, hopefully we'll have the money to be able to do this project. The kind of interesting is we actually got, we had applied to LCCMR for some funding for this project, thinking, you know, we probably weren't going to get very far simply because we don't rank very high. And we don't have the support of the Soil and Water Conservation District on it. But I got a call and I'm presenting to them on Tuesday. So I'm going to go in with the presentation that basically states where we're at with this project. And if they are willing to give us a couple $100,000 for restoration, whatever that looks like, I think we're certainly not going to turn it back. So we'll see what happens with that particular presentation. The other thing that was good news is normally as a city we get about $25,000 every year from the state for a small cities local transportation fund. It comes from the state of Minnesota. And this year, we actually are getting $68,000, which will go directly into the RDB project. So that's good news that that's a big, jump up from where we were. So the fire remediation grant dollars and sales and use tax did get included. So that was approved as part of the legislative session. We continue to work on housing. I talk about this. I feel like I sound like a broken record, but we truly are very much, that is the #1 priority, and we know that. I had somebody tell me today he knows of 2 people that are moving because, we don't have housing, and it's not from a lack of developers. We have certainly many folks that are willing to jump into that development pool, so to speak, or at least be partners in it. Where we're running into issues is simply not having the land available. It's been difficult to try and find somebody who's willing to get, to Sutherland at something that would be considered a reasonable price. So that's kind of where we're at. But we are continuing to work on that. Just to give you an update on a couple other things related actually to the utility side, Magny is finally to the point where they've mobilized most of their crew. They got a really slow start out there, but now this week especially, they've really started to ramp it up. So a majority of their workers are now on site at the wastewater facility. We also found out that we are going to be receiving almost $600,000 in Green Project Fund reserves. So that's, for our public facilities loan, that's something that is principal forgiveness on that. But there's also the opportunity to add back in things that we had to cut out of that project. So the determination was made that we need to put one of the centrifuges back into the project. There was one that we had taken out of the project and it needs to go back in now because we do have this extra money, which is good news, very good news. It's just we're trying to figure out what the lead time cost would be, or the lead time on getting that centrifuge, because the lead times are very, very long. So we're still working through that, but that's actually very good. The North Water Tower, and yes, we know we have to do some work on the north side. There's the border on the north side has to be finessed a little bit. And so they're gonna finish that up tomorrow, but that project's done, and on Monday, they're going to do the sanitation of it and, get that thing back online. So we did extend an offer to Daniel Harrington for the city planner position, subject, of course, to your approval this evening and to the background check. Interviews took place on Tuesday, July 6th. 3 out of 4, one was a no-show. Candidates were interviewed from an overall applicant pool of 6. Mr. Harrington is a graduate of Ohio State University with a master's in city and regional planning. He did score the highest in our T&E rating, and also he received the most points during the interview and was unanimously recommended. On the interview team were Bunker Hill, Jason, myself, and Gary. So Mr. Harrington has accepted the position. And we sent him a lot of stuff. Obviously, without having a shortage of housing, I'm just not sure where he's going to live. But I pulled out the stops and asked all the HRA folks and everybody else if they knew of anything. So hopefully he'll have some success there. Anyway, he is scheduled to start August 1st, and later on the agenda we'll talk about that. That's under an action item. As Scott had mentioned, he'll talk about this later on the agenda too. There is some recommendations to do some revisions to what's called 9319, and I believe the council is going to be discussing those changes a little bit later on. In addition to those changes, there's multiple other changes that we really need to take a look at, but I'd rather our planner get on board first, and then we can go from there. And then just to give you a heads up, our first budget workshop for the council will be 4:30 on August 19th. And we have staff and ad hoc has their first negotiations with AFSCME and LELS unions coming up here in July. So at this point, Mr. Mayor, that's what I have.
All right, sounds good. All right, we are on to action items. Action item A, dangerous dog order. Scott?
Yeah, this is now having received this, information, during the hearing, the decision, the question before the council is whether or not the Lewis's dog Luna is a dangerous dog as defined by Minnesota statutes. Like I say, it's already been determined to be a potentially dangerous dog, and that designation is not before us. So whatever the council decides, that would remain. But, the definition of a dangerous dog under the Minnesota statute is a dog that has, without provocation, inflicted substantial bodily harm on a human being on a public or private property. I mean, that refers to the location where that injury was inflicted, or A dangerous dog is a dog that has been found to be potentially dangerous, and after the owner has noticed that the dog is potentially dangerous, the dog aggressively bites, attacks, or endangers the safety of, humans or other domestic animals. The phrase substantial bodily harm means an injury that involves a temporary but substantial disfigurement, or causes a temporary but substantial loss or impairment of the function of any bodily member or organ, or causes a fracture of any bodily member. A potentially dangerous dog is defined as a dog that, when unprovoked, inflicts bites on a human or other domestic animal, whether it's on public or private property, or is a dog that, when provoked, has a known propensity, tendency, or disposition to attack, causing injury or otherwise threatening the safety of humans or domestic animals. So that's what the statutes lay out for us, is what what a potentially dangerous dog is and what a dangerous dog is. If the council makes upholds the determination that Luna is a dangerous dog, under Minnesota law, the following steps need to be taken. The dog has to be registered annually as a dangerous dog, and I believe that registration is maintained by Stearns County. The dog has to be kept in a proper enclosure. The Lewis would then have to post their property with dangerous dog warning signs. If they take the dog out of the enclosure, it would have to, at all times, it would have to be muzzled and restrained on a leash. They have to maintain liability insurance of at least $300,000. They have to pay an annual registration fee that goes with registering the dog as a dangerous dog. Implant an identifying microchip, which sounds like that's already been done. There is a dangerous dog warning tag that then has to be affixed to the dog's collar and warn. The dog needs to be sterilized, spayed or neutered if it hasn't already been. Then if the animal is sold, notice has to be provided as to who the new owner is, as well as, if the dog's location, if it's moved. The dog's location has to be, new location has to be filed. And then, as Chief Mouse mentioned, upon the dog's death, have to file notice that it has passed away. Now, the council doesn't get to alter those requirements. That's what the state of Minnesota requires. Once you made the dangerous dog determination, that's the floor. You can't add additional requirements if you think that's appropriate, or you can simply require that the animal is put down. Now, the hearing was tonight, and then from the close of the hearing, you have 10 days to make a decision. So, strictly speaking, you would not have to make a decision tonight. But if you don't, you'll need to call a special hearing or a special meeting next week or early the following week, because the decision does need to be made within 10 days. Any questions on that information? Otherwise, I would leave it up to the council to make their deliberations.
All right, council, ask questions. You want to wait, Scott? Just
The one question I have, Scott, is based on our vote either way, is the city liable, like, in one way or another, based on how this vote goes, or is it the same liability on the city?
I don't.
Well, we're having the discussion. So
Yeah,
I think
we're
like
having
it
the
or not,
we're having the
we're kinda
discussion,
on the hook if there is another incident.
but I don't know that you would be second guessed, or if someone was injured and, you had found that, no, it's not a dangerous dog, what they would be looking at is what's the information you had, was your decision reasonable, and, you're not expected to be able to, see into the future. You based it on the information that you have before you. And if there's a rational basis for your decision, there's not going to be liability. That doesn't help much, but that's the standard legal answer. So you can never say no, but I think the potential liability if there was another incident would be remote. So.
Does that satisfy your question? Okay. Tony?
I'm torn, obviously. I know, I can feel your concern about, having to do the additional steps with dangerous dog. However, I look at the dangerous dog statute, and it's been found to be potentially dangerous, has been found to be potentially dangerous. After the owner has noticed the dog is potentially dangerous, the dog aggressively bites, attacks, or endangers the safety of humans or domestic animals. And that has happened. My fear is, obviously, as was alluded to, if something, if there's a little kid walking a dog down the street and it happens again, and then the kid tries to get involved, that can obviously spiral into something terrible. We've owned dogs. I don't know what I would do if that happened. If our dog did that to, a couple of people. I don't know. Would I expect? I think I'd probably expect it to be labeled a dangerous dog if it attacked other people a couple of times or something like that. But our dog barks at other people, but as soon as you walk toward him, turns and hightails it away. So. I don't know, and we would be obviously second guessing the police department. So I don't like doing that, number one. Number two, it does appear to fit the criteria.
Justin?
I have to agree with Tony. I don't know where our hands are kind of tied here. And I don't want, whether it's human or another dog, people's pets are their family too. They're their kids. So, whether it attacked a human or just another dog, that other dog to somebody is their child, or, so, I don't know. Like I said, it meets all the criteria of dangerous dog, and it's always the what ifs.
Well, I know Miss Kara and Raheem, they're good people. I think they're responsible animal owners, come from a lifetime of animals on at least Kara's side. Unfortunately, we've had the two incidents that they very honestly own up to. And I don't like the term dangerous dog. It just sounds, a little over the top. And despite the best intentions of everybody involved, if we were to have another incident, and Justin said, certainly wouldn't want to see another animal involved, but if we have some kid that tries to intervene and has closer to the substantially bodily harm portion of the statute, it wouldn't fare well for Lewis's, despite the $300,000 indemnity policy. And I've just got to think that because we're having the discussion, we're going to be in the mix. And I hate for it to come down to cover your backside, but that's why we're enforcing, we're up to the point of potentially dangerous, and now we're discussing dangerous, because we're trying to avert another such situation if there's any way possible. Now, microchips and muzzles and everything else is not a perfect guarantee, but there is no perfect guarantee.
All right, council, what are you gonna do? Travis, did you have anything?
No, I kind of have my questions answered there.
Okay.
I agree, it's nothing personal, more city level.
It would almost make the decision easier if the dog owner wasn't so pleasant about the situation. I mean, you're not disputing the facts at hand, and it just seems really kind of underhanded to make decisions when we're involving, very nice people. But I guess, Mr. Mayor, I got to make the motion that we do go ahead and label this animal as a dangerous dog.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. First and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Sorry, Kara, to you and your family. All right. City planner hire.
So I talked about it in my report. Daniel Harrington has been offered the position subject to approval, obviously, by this body as well as a background check. I don't know, Penny, I don't know, do you know if, well, it doesn't matter. We're working through that. You have to go through a process and we're doing it. So anyway, I would recommend that he start at step 1 of 7 with the standard benefit package. We did, just as a reminder to the council, we did have a community development director position that we eliminated. This is a city planner position, so the salary scale is different than what the community development director was. So I do recommend that he starts at step 1 of that.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ms. Colleen, I know that you've had some contact and interaction with Mr. Harrington. Was there any potential start date discussed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. August 1st, he's thinking that he can start August 1st. I should have mentioned that.
You did.
Actually, she did, I missed it, I'm sorry. Actually, August 2nd, I think is a Monday.
Or August 2nd, yeah, it's a good point. We'll call him tomorrow and let him know. We don't expect him to start on a Sunday. He can start August 2nd, so that would be his hire date. Like I said, we're hopeful. Erica sent him a whole bunch of information about apartments. There's really nothing in this neck of the woods, but maybe he could get something close by. We'll see.
He's not by any chance an EMT, because we got an apartment above the
Yeah, there you go. I guess I don't know.
ambulance station.
We could ask.
Probably charge them rent too.
Or you could make them one.
Yeah, you can make a
Yeah,
plan.
that's true.
So,
All right, good deal.
Okay.
I'm
All
not
right.
sure.
Building demo proposal at the old mayor station.
So we've been talking back and forth about this project, and we kind of went back and forth. Do we include it when we do the RDB project? Do we get it done ahead of time? This is something that the county is taking the lead on, not the city. We just are doing some of the cost share as far as the demolition of the building goes. But as part of that demolition, there is a cost associated from an engineering side. And so WSB presented us a proposal, which I emailed out to you. But if you look, that proposal is actually pretty significant. However, we did have a meeting with WSB in the county the other day, and this isn't just for the demo of that building. It's actually includes vibration monitoring for the duration of the project. And so my thought is the vibration monitoring is really more of a county cost versus a city cost. So I haven't got the percentage yet, but I would anticipate the cost share on this would not be 20,000, which is what I had originally had told the council, but more probably in the neighborhood of 11,000.
Okay, vibration, I never remember hearing about that part of the deal, because that would have threw my red flags up with the old Bull Lake Cleaner building. If that thing falls into the river, I don't want to be responsible for
No,
those buildings.
it's pre and post conditions. That's why we're doing the vibration monitoring. The other thing about those two buildings is we are working with those owners individually right now, because there's some rehab grant dollars that are available, and so we're going to try and work with them to see if we can separate from this whole thing, but we're working with the owners of those two buildings to see if we can work with them to get some dollars to do something there, whether it be,
So possible relocation of, say, like,
well, there's nobody in those businesses
just a
right now.
body shop, I think is the only one that's out there.
No, Ilias will stay. There's nothing with
okay.
Ilias, nothing at all. No. Jim is fine, and he's gonna stay where he's at. I'm talking Mayor's building would
Right.
be on the corner.
Yeah.
And then beyond Jim's building, there's two small buildings.
Yeah.
And so those are the ones that we're still doing some exploratory things as far as what could be done. But that's the whole point of why we're doing this, is so that we have the pre-construction inspection, the post-construction. Once we get the pre-construction inspection done, it will inform us what kind of shape those buildings are in.
Okay.
And then we can make some recommendations as far as what's the next step. But the Myers was always part of this project.
Mike, when the building was torn down on Main Street, was there an engineer involved in that? Or did they just hire a,
For the 400 block?
yeah, did they
There
just?
were a lot of, there was engineers involved with that, I remember,
they-
with
Okay.
EPA and all that, so.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, because, not saying that an engineer shouldn't be involved here, but I'm curious, when you tear down a building, typically you just go to a construction company and say, hey, can you get me a proposal on tearing down a building?
Yeah, what this is,
And whatever they need to do, they'll do as far as assuring the condition of the neighboring buildings and, pre and post. And this quote is kind of muddy because it includes the vibration monitoring. They're renting the vibration monitoring equipment for 24 months. That's for the entire bridge construction period.
right.
That's $20,000 just to rent the equipment. Well, that's mostly bridge, obviously, right? So at most, I can't say one way or the other, but 11,000 city cost even sounds high, to be honest with you, because the 12,000 is all the engineering. Pre and post is largely vibration monitoring and bridge construction. So, fee is maybe 6,000 to 8,000, in my opinion, just doing some quick calculations in my head here. If we have an engineer managing the entire demolition. But, I don't know, give mayors a call, they tear buildings down, see what they think, bounce it off them.
But the problem that we have is because of the connection to the building.
I get that,
Yeah.
and construction companies deal with that all the time when they're demoing buildings, so.
And the stability
It's
of the
gonna have to
slope
be-
there. Yeah.
Well, I know we did
I know, and
because
it affects the river
yeah.
too, so.
Well, it affects the river. Also, we did have, with the joining walls, they have
Mm.
to engineer not that when they're pulling apart, that his wall
Is gonna be
is
stable
actually the
enough.
mayor's wall, and it falls in,
Right.
so I understand.
Yeah.
So,
And Nick, maybe you can kind of help me out here a little bit, because it's a little cloudy. The vibration monitoring, is that like during the demolition of the old bridge, when they're doing the caissons for the uprights for the new bridge? What kind Where's the vibration coming from that we're monitoring?
Yeah, that's the biggest piece is when they're doing the bridge, when they're driving the piles in, but also when they're doing the road work. I mean, what that does is, let's say, someone says, oh, you damaged my building during construction. Well, we have that those pre-photos, we have vibration monitoring. We can
Okay.
just
So
change some of that.
I can see what they're looking at now. I don't know that I necessarily agree, but I can see what you're looking
I have
at.
seen it happen just doing road construction. Hey, I have a crack next to me I didn't have before.
Okay.
It's hard to say unless you have a pre-survey done.
Because I'm thinking, okay, it's a pretty steep slope behind those structures, and is something going to cave and fall down.
Should we, because we need to take an action item on this, do we just approve it potentially up for so much and then try to work it down a little bit, what's really our share? Otherwise, what's the best to do with this?
Yeah, because they do want to proceed ahead. I think this is the first thing because we have to get Center Point and some of those other folks have to get relocated.
Just potentially approve it up to that amount, but try to make sure that
Up
it's.
to 20,000? No.
No. We can take,
This is largely bridge.
yeah, we
mean,
can
yeah.
take,
And
I
this
would
is-
say you guys would be safe to do
And the bridge,
10,000.
the bridge is 100% county expense, right?
Yes.
The bridge construction, right? So I don't think we,
Well, do we just approve it up to there unless I'm just saying, approve it, not that it holds it up and we have to have special meetings again and get a follow-up from Clean if what happens and what the final cost is?
Approve it up to a dollar amount, and then we can address overrun costs if they happen to be overrun costs.
Or what?
I think whatever we approve it for is what it's going to be. I would assume. Because this is obviously a public meeting, so everybody knows it.
I mean, I'm willing to get the information. You could approve a dollar amount and then authorize the myself and Nick to just review the costs if you want.
So,
Or we just bring it back to you guys. But I don't necessarily want to.
I don't want to wait either.
Well, my only thing is we still don't know if we're getting the funding from, and that's our thing. If we don't get the funding this year, then the vibration equipment's only for a short period of time while we demolish this building, not necessarily for that full 24 months. So
Could we approve? I can see $7,000 being.
I don't think that's enough. Let's just do the middle of the road for now. Just to be on the safe side, I don't want to get called back too
The
fast.
biggest thing is if it's 7,000, what are you gonna do if it comes back at 10? Are you gonna
No, then you call a special meeting because we
delay
got
the
to spend
whole
another $3,000.
project? Well, I know, but you can delay the whole project on 3,000?
Can't you approve it up to 10 and not spend all 10 of it or what?
I think I'd rather put half of it, like 14, 15,000. But try to
Nick, do you
get
have any
down.
pull here? I mean, I don't know if have you seen this proposal?
I have briefly haven't seen it. I saw it when it first came out.
Yeah.
I guess what I would recommend, would be to do not to exceed 10,000. We can certainly refine the proposal, get the vibration monitoring out there, and get that to Colleen, and that way we can just keep moving forward.
Right.
That's
I think 10,000 would be.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion that, to approve up to 10,000 for this vibration equipment during the demolition phase of that structure.
It would actually just be
Not-
for
not-
engineering.
Not
Not
for
the
the
vibration.
vibration.
Not,
Not the vibration.
Not the
Yeah.
vibration.
I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
just approve the engineering.
$10,000.
Towards the
$10,000.
Engineering.
Engineering for sort of the demolition of the building, right?
Right. There is a first, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carried. Chief
Did-
Woody, we
Did you
are
fix
up
it for me,
water
Patty?
truck.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, Council, on the agenda tonight, we're here to talk about the fire department water truck replacement. We went out and did our specs. We had it advertised under the city guidelines and procedures. We had to list it at 2 publications, our one main city publication and then one trade publication. We went and did that. We got 1 bid back. It was with Midwest Fire. And we had in the budget $250,000 for replacement. The bid came back at $237,764, so it did come down, came in a little lower than what we had budgeted, which is nice to see. Just to recap, it's a 3,000-gallon tanker that we will be replacing. We've got a current 3,000-gallon tanker that's shown its age and like to get it replaced. Midwest is a very reputable company. We had 2 tankers purchased through the company already, and they stand behind their product very well, and the fire department is familiar with the equipment, so there's not much on a learning curve on that portion. Going forward, I guess the plan is to would reduce 1 tanker, possibly depending on ISO ratings. I would like to maybe go down to 2 tankers, and the 1 tanker that we sell, put the money into the budget, but potentially look at a people mover type of a piece of apparatus. You remember back in several years ago, we had this old camper type of a command unit that hauled a lot of people, gave us a lot of issues, but so we got rid of it. But I'd like to go to something maybe a little smaller, but right now we don't need that. But I want to make the council aware that going down to 2 mutual aid tankers are readily available. We don't need to have, in my opinion, 3 unless ISO rating reflects that. But I would just like to have that possibility of maybe a people mover vehicle down the road if we deem that it needs to be purchased, but that's, so.
So you haven't made that decision 100% to go down a rig?
So,
you're gonna get rid of 1, the oldest?
yeah, so right now we have 3 tankers.
Yeah.
1 tanker is a 4,000-gallon tanker. It's a DNR truck. Once we're done using it, we have to give it back to the DNR, and we've been done with it 3 years ago. It's a problem. The tires are really tired on it, and then the gate valve on there does not, after 2 loads of water, doesn't hold very tight anymore. So my thoughts are, and I've been talking with Tessa a little bit, of just let's cut the ties now and get rid of that one now. And then the 3,000-gallon tanker that we have right now would sit idle or be replaced. And my thoughts are, is as long as it's in fairly decent shape right now, let's get the money now and cut it, as long as we don't need it for our ISO ratings, and then see how the operations look from there and go forward.
Yeah, I just don't want you guys to, I mean, you guys are gonna know
Right.
what you need for it, but once you get rid of a truck, it's hard to get one back, so.
Exactly, and just so you know, 2020, the 3rd tanker went out on 4% of our calls, and out of those 4% of the calls, it was maybe used twice, and when I say used twice, going back and forth for water. Mutual aid nowadays is such a big thing, whether we're providing it to the neighboring towns or they're providing it to us. So if we know we're going to a structure fire, you call them up right away and have their tankers rolling, and and speed too is what it is. So the way I see operations right now, and only running at 4% of our calls, that's a pretty big expense to have sitting on our books.
So this tanker we're trading in a tanker, is that right?
Nope.
No.
Nope, we are they don't take used tankers. You
Okay.
go out and purchase it, and then you get rid of what you need.
You sell
to
one,
Yep,
sell it outright or
Right.
whatever, put it on the used market or whatever for tankers.
right,
Okay.
right.
So the quote now is 237,000 or
Yep.
whatever. What do you think the old one that we're thinking about getting rid of, what do you think that one's worth?
Ballpark figure about 20,000.
Okay.
And that's based off of information that where we use to get, there's a used fire truck place down in Alabama that we've used to purchase our ladder and one of our pumpers.
Wow.
And I go to that site and they're pretty good.
Yeah.
They're pretty honest,
Sure they-
and that's
Shop them around to whatever
right.
fire
Right.
departments are.
So yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking, and to put it back into the budget and see where it goes from there. So I should just add one thing. They're 16 months out on this order too, by the way.
So we're going to have the old one for a while.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I guess my thought is, another thought is, a few years ago we ran into an issue where one of the newer tankers, I think, was hit on the interstate, right?
Yep.
Just throwing this out there, but could we make the old tanker the traffic control vehicle so that we don't run into a situation where the newer vehicles get hit by unattentive drivers?
We can. The only thing is the lighting system on these newer trucks are a lot nicer. This happened to happen during the middle of the day. I don't think it would have mattered. And neighboring community just to the west of us had a tanker get hit about 4 months ago, 6 months ago, something like that.
I know. But then we run into that. Yeah.
The insurance has changed to replacement costs, so we won't.
Oh, we won't into that situation again where we have to.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So we.
Be covered fully.
Yep. We reevaluated.
The word to appreciate, which happened last time, they depreciate if they were more, so.
Yeah. Okay.
I just keep thinking if that,
Yeah, because I know that was kind of a tough pill to swallow. So.
yeah, I mean, if that truck is in decent shape yet, then, I don't know, is it worth $20,000 in the budget, or do you just
Well, then there's
hang on to it and use it? Well, what if something happens, then at least you still got that tanker. I mean, I don't know.
And I did, and not that you have to go and see what other departments are doing, but I took an inventory of other departments in the area just to say, okay, what does your fleet look like and what does the tankers look like? And we are the only one in a large area that have 3 tankers. Everybody else is just down to 2. And when you look at it, manpower becomes a big thing too. We average about, for the last 5 years, about 25 guys on the department. So we can have that tanker there, but can it be drivable when you go to a structure fire, because you're gonna need more hands-on on the structure fire than you are. Then when you call in your neighboring departments, they're the water shuttlers already, so.
Right.
Yeah, but it's still, like I said, I just want to throw it out there, not that you guys are caught off guard that now you guys are trying to get rid of this and going down to 2 and what's going on here. So I just wanted to upfront and be honest that the way it looks like the plan and the way we run the operations, that sits more than it.
So we're like 16 months out on the new rig, though.
That right now, 16 months out. So we're talking.
Probably not dropping a rig for a while.
Right.
Right. If we make this approval tonight, we're not.
Yeah, like I said.
Think about it.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. We've got 2 years to think about it, and probably the new, potentially a new chief could be deciding on that decision, but.
No.
No.
Okay.
So.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase. Yeah.
Okay, first and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, chief. All right, new business, nuisance ordinance proposed amendment.
I got a bounce.
Good evening again. We provided you a draft copy of a proposed amendment to the nuisance ordinance. We're not calling on you to adopt it at this point, but we wanted to put it out there for your consideration, and would be looking, potentially at adopting this at the August meeting. what this is meant to address is I got looking at our ordinance, and we adopted our ordinance in 2007. So we've had it a while, and we have not really made any changes or amendments to that ordinance. You know, as time has gone by, I've seen a change in what we're seeing in violations. I think when we first started, pursuing these actions 5-6 years ago, we were seeing people that, they had clutter and trash and debris in their yards, and we were getting on them about, you got to clean it up. Get rid of these old appliances, construction materials, etc. Take care of your property. We're actually not seeing as much of that as we used to. Where we're seeing the change is people are bringing in vehicles and parking them in the yard. And our ordinance doesn't really specifically address that. Where we were seeing this, we were relying on what I think of as our catch-all, which is at 9318N, that talks about accumulations in the open of discarded or disused machinery, household appliances, automobiles, or other material in a manner conducive to harboring vermin, rank growth, or creating fire, health, or safety, figuring that a lot of these, that's where we would write them up on. And it was easier to make that argument because typically the people that had these vehicles also had the other junk, and so we were able to just include the whole thing. But more and more we're finding, they just have these vehicles, and they sit and they sit and they sit, and we don't have any language that specifically addresses it. Now the language that we're presenting for your review, that's what it's there for. It's specifically to address these vehicles that are parked indefinitely out in people's yards. Our ordinance is based off the League of Minnesota's model ordinance, and so that's where I went back to see, well, we can't be the only ones in the state of Minnesota with junk car problems. Does the league have any model language? And so that's where I got this. I went back and they have generated some suggested language for addressing, these circumstances. And so that's what I'm looking at, is to update the ordinance by including this language that, as times change, you get different problems. I think in '07, this was less of a problem statewide. I suspect that this is a problem across the state, and the league has generated some additional language that we can add to our nuisance ordinance. And what we would be doing is specifically calling it out and saying that, in the parking and storage area, that if you're going to have that parked outside or stored outside, it's got to be properly licensed. Going on to address some of these other, like you say, the description there about not in operating condition, partially dismantled, used for repairs, parts or scraps, not licensed. But then we do say, we're not saying that you can't have those things. What we're saying is that if you're going to have them, keep it enclosed in a building, or, put up some kind of screening where it's not, readily viewing from the street or the alley or the neighbor's, property. And that's, like I say, we're trying to, because I think we're seeing more and more people just bring this stuff home, and I don't know if they're going to think their hobby is going to be restoring old cars or what it's going to happen. But, you know, they never get around to it, and it just sits there. And right now, we don't have as good a tool as I'd like to address that. So that's what's generated that. And I can tell you that, you know, of the 9, you know, outstanding nuisance complaints that we were going to start working on, I got to think 7 or 8 of them are specifically this issue. It's not people with not cleaning up after a new roof job, or, you know, got a new washer and dryer and got it sitting out in the backyard. It's collections of vehicles like this. And that's been the trend as I go back and look since we started doing this back in 2016.
If we were to examine this further this fall and adopt something, once it's published with X amount of days, it would be enforceable for these gentlemen come springtime, which is normally when they start looking, correct?
Well, I think, I haven't discussed this with the chief, but if this was adopted at the August meeting, we publish it, it goes into effect. My thought would be, you know, I'm assuming all that stuff is still there that he's been presented, but to go out and confirm and maybe give him a copy of the ordinance and tell him, you know, we've talked to you about this twice already. You got to get rid of it. And then if they don't, then later this fall, depending on when the council meetings fall, September or October, start the process so that we're not, you know, the 2021 nuisances that we've identified would still try to get done in 2021. And then the chief can start fresh next spring. But I do think if we change the rules, we probably, you know.
And my thought is, in fairness,
Yeah.
it's something that can be posted on the city website, give folks plenty of heads up.
It would get published, and
if they
it
have
would
any
get.
questions, they can ask them, and it's like,
These are folks that know they've got a problem.
right,
They
you got
just
3 functional, you know, 2 cars in a pickup, okay, but you can't have.
And for a lot of these people, it's a
small
simple,
parking lot.
you know, yeah, it's a simple matter of, you know, put it in the garage or buy some taps, and that would solve it.
I'm good with it. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm
Like I say, we didn't post it, we didn't set it up, but we wanted to introduce this idea to you at tonight's meeting, but then we would look to follow up by adopting it, you know, at the August meeting. And then that's, because we do have to follow the posting requirements now, but proposed ordinance changes.
I think that's good.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Scott. Yeah. All right, informational items. Utility Commission minutes, budget meeting minutes, schools and conferences. Unless there's anything else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.